And we're back with another episode of Franchise My Business, a podcast for franchisors, hosted by franchisors. I'm your host, Kevin Oldham, and we're going to talk about, actually, you know what? This is going to be an amazing episode. And I know I say that all the time, but we have a reformed digital marketer who's gone into franchising. And so, this is basically like talking to my twin. And so, we're just going to get rid of the fluffy intro and we're just going to hop right in because I love talking about marketing. I love talking about franchising. And furthermore, I love it when somebody takes their skills that they've used for other people and they focus it on their brand. I think that's every marketer's dream. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming the founder and CEO of leading Brazilian wax and sugar salon, a gentleman by the name of Brigham. Brigham has a phenomenal business. It is called Hello Sugar Salon. So appropriate naming as well, sir. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate being here and excited to talk to you and your guests.
Yeah. So let's talk about before franchising, or maybe you're doing it simultaneously, but you're a recovering agency owner, it sounds like, digital agency owner. Is that a safe assumption?
Yeah, taking it back to 2015, I was doing a bunch of diet pill ads, which are these scammy things you put on the internet to try to sell people memberships, and I just hated it. I was feeling unethical. I couldn't sleep at night, and I was like, I gotta get out of this business. Yeah. And I was also tired of making other people money because I was the advertiser, right? First guy to get cut. You know how that goes, Kevin. And so I essentially just said, hey, let me just start my own thing. And I love the idea of Brazilian waxing because of the membership model. I love that they come back every month. I like the high price versus the low cost of it. And I was like, this is kind of like selling diet pills, right? There's a low cost, there's a high margin, there's monthly memberships. Mm-hmm. This is a go for
Awesome. Me. Now, did you have any experience in that industry before?
Kevin, I didn't even know the difference between a Brazilian and a bikini wax. Okay. Do you know the difference?
I don't. I don't. And I'm married, and my wife would probably be able to tell me, but I want you, since you're the expert, to tell me the difference.
No, just go Google it. It's not PG enough for the show.
Okay, but there is a difference. There's a difference. And that's something.
There's a difference. I didn't know until after I started. I was a month in and I was like, what the heck is the difference between bikini and Brazilian?
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Yeah, what would you and I know potentially about that, right? So I do want to go back to the beginning, however, because I think it's really, really cool. Listeners know that franchising is my favorite business model on the planet. I think that it aligns the alignment between the franchisor and franchisee are just so awesome. It's such a great model for a lot of people. But I want to talk about what made you decide to go into franchising. So first and foremost, did you build this business with franchising in mind at the beginning? Or you're the accidental franchisor? Yep.
Mine is all economic driven. So in the beginning, it was I need $5,000 to live monthly, right? And so I need a one-room studio waxing salon on the side to just make enough money to quit selling scammy diet pills. And then when I got to franchising, I was at the time I was teaching at a university. I was teaching a class on how to start a small business. And the class was called How to Start a Six-Figure Income for $3,000 or
cool.
less. So it was all about helping entrepreneurs start businesses. And they would use Google Ads, Facebook ads to scale. And so given that I've done that for 3 years, I really enjoyed helping people be successful at starting businesses. So that was the side hustle passion. And then on the other side, I was looking and I was like, okay, I could sell Hello Sugar for 3 to 5x multiple on EBITDA. So if you've ever sold a business before, you take your profit margin, you multiply it by a multiple, in this case, 3 to 5x for a brick and mortar business. And that's what you can sell. And typically that's a brick and mortar sale. And then I was looking at European wax and they sold for 18x. And I'm like, this doesn't really make sense to me. So I started looking at franchising and they sell for a 10 to 20x multiple. So I said, okay, I could do the same amount of work, run the exact same business, but just package it differently. And now I've 5x the multiple that I could sell the business for. So I could get 5x more economic return on my time by choosing to franchise instead of do it myself. That was the motivation behind it. And little did I know how difficult that would actually be.
But you still picked a scalable model. And I think that's that's why these things get such a high multiple. You create a platform, you can put more, passengers or in this case, businesses, people, whoever, right, on the platform. and your variable costs don't increase. Now, what you did find out is that there's the variable costs do increase from a support perspective and also from an emotional perspective. People don't
Yeah.
talk about the emotional costs
Yeah.
of franchising. They talk about the money and all that, but it's like, dude, you now have, because when we were talking before, you have 65 locations open, right?
Yeah.
65 business
Yeah.
owners who look at Brigham as like the leader of their organization, the visionary. They look at you, but they're trusting their entrepreneurship journey with you. How's that feel when you wake up every day?
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah, Kevin, no, it's the most stressful thing on the planet, actually. It's not the most awesome thing. Kevin, that was the thing that like really just hit me in the face. There's two things that hit me in the face. This is one of them. Was like, I'm 3 months into franchising and I've just said, hey, I'm going to have my best friends franchise. I'm not going to open this to the public.
Okay.
I'm just going to give it to like the people that I trust
Yep.
the most. And they were failing miserably along with me at being like the franchises, right? Because you're just starting, you don't know what you're doing. So we did a lot of things wrong. We overpaid our estheticians. We didn't know how to set blocks on schedules, so we had a lot of like hourly wage gaps. We were just full ham. We did way too many salons in the beginning at first. Like we went 3 instead of starting with 1. Like just a lot of stupid
Right.
mistakes. And because of that, 3 or 4 months in, they're making X amount of their job and they're losing X plus 2,000 a month, on their franchises. And I'm like, dude, I'm making so much money here at Hello Sugar corporate, and then my friends are losing money. I'm stressed out of my mind.
Right.
And it's this really hard thing you have to do as a franchisor is to be able to manage the stress of your family not eating well in the beginning,
Yeah.
right? Like, and I know it's like normal and they know it's normal, but you just hate that this is like, you promise them something and it's not delivered day one, right? Like you got to wait a little bit before it starts delivering. And that was a really hard thing for me to get over.
Yeah. No, it is. And, selling to like getting family and friends and the friendly people close to you that will give you feedback on the franchise model is super, super smart and important because they do help you iron out the kinks. So I guess my question would be, you got all the kinks ironed out, and are those friends, like, are your original franchisees, some of your friends still operators today, or did they decide to?
Yeah. Yeah, Kevin, there's a cadence that most people fail at when they franchise. And the cadence is start really small, even though you need the money and the capital from the royalties to grow, start really small and just work everything out before you scale. And because what happens is a lot of people are like, okay, I can get a FSO, which is a sales organization, to come in and just build 100 locations for me at once. And you don't have the infrastructure, you don't have the hypotheses worked out to actually like to support these people. And now you've got 100 locations that are failing and your franchise is dead in the water the next year because you publish this thing called an FDD, this financial disclosure document with an item 19 in there, and the item 19 has to show positive numbers. And if it doesn't, you're screwed, you're hosed. Beep, you're screwed. You really are, right? So for us, we knew that we needed money on the franchise side to grow, but we said, before we even think about those kind of things, let's figure out these hypotheses. And I look at this a lot like software, right? Like where you do these rolling updates and each one increases as a magnitude. And so update 1 was like a huge change in the company. Update 2 was like 75% of that change, and it kept gradually getting smaller and smaller incremental updates where like now people join the franchise, there's a full structure to it, but there's videos, there's like, okay, here's what not to do kind of stuff. But it's like little tiny improvements every time that are not like gonna be life changing, like for these people. Whereas like in the beginning year, the whole year was like life changing. And so the principle here, Kevin, is grow like a hockey stick. Like go really, really small and then exponential.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely like I think common thread that I keep hearing, which is don't open things at a pace that outpaces your ability to support at the highest level. And that's like if you just grow for growth's sake to put dots on the map, but you're not ready to support those operators, you're going to have maybe great statistics for a year or two, but your item 19 is going to stink. Your closed units are going to increase, and it's just not going to be great for your overall system reputation. And that's ultimately what you have to sell on is your reputation of your existing and past franchisees. What were you going to say, man?
Yeah, and Kevin, I'll go even farther than that. Grow slower than you think you need to grow. grow slower than you think you're like she just everyone thinks they're a better driver. Like if you ask somebody, are you an average driver or above average? Everyone says they're above average, right? Like that can't statistically be true, right? You're just not. I mean, look at my wife. No, I'm just kidding.
I was gonna say,
Like,
if you ask,
she's actually better
if you ask my wife, she'll tell you that she wrecks her minivan like really within a mile of our house more than most drivers. She'll tell you she's not the greatest driver.
That's the statistic. The 3 miles from your house, yeah, you're right. Yeah. And so grow slower than you think you should grow, because where you run your business today, that's your confidence, that's your ego. It's like, I've got a successful, profitable, my business is killing it. You think that's going to apply to every market, and it just doesn't work the same because cultures are different throughout the United States. So you take things slow, you use your closest confidants, the ones that are not going to be like, hey, you screwed me over by doing this. But like, start small, grow slow, work out the kinks, and when you figured out those hypotheses, that's when you open it up to other people. Not just because you have a good model.
Right. Beautiful. Beautiful. Since you're a marketer at heart, I want to know, like, what's been your for franchise development specifically, what's been like your best or like your best way of attracting the right operators, the right franchisees? Or I'm assuming you've probably figured that out by now. Sometimes in the beginning, you don't know who they are. Have you?
Yeah, we haven't figured it out yet. I'll tell you that.
No,
so I
still haven't.
Like,
still moving target.
I think we've gotten better. I think we're about 8 months in. So here's what I know now that I didn't know 8 months ago, right? So I thought going to like MUFC, multi-unit franchising conferences, like those big franchising conferences would be like killer for us. They weren't, because we're such a smaller brand that we don't stand out, right? Like you're not PF Chang's or Chipotle, like you're this like smaller brand. You don't have a $50,000 to $100,000 show booth, right? So those things are just, you're just a small fish in a big pond, right? The best shows we've done are the franchising expos. There's this guy that puts them on. He does them all across the country. And there's about 2,000 to 3,000 people that come. A 10 by 10 booth, $3,000.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're looking at spending about $6,000 for this show. Let me tell you about shows real quick, Kevin, just a real quick caveat. You've got to find people at the show. Don't wait for people to come to you. You know, you're a marketer as well. So like we start off, I'll just give you the pro tip. We'll be like, because people are there looking for a business. We'll be like, what business are you looking for today? Like, that's our question. Like, what are you looking for in a business today? Yep. And that just stops people. And then we start a conversation about how we stand out from everybody else. And then we publish our item 19 numbers on our board. And we're like, we're the only ones that do this because we have a successful franchise and we stand out from others. So shows have been good. Podcasts have been nice to be on. They've helped us. And then our network and referrals, and then also just having a good, strong SEO presence, like being on like the 4 Entrepreneur 500s and those kind of things. Yeah. Like when people are looking at like sugar, we've gotten a lot of sugaring NYCs. They're like, I don't know about them. And then they'll be like, what other franchises are out there in the sugaring space? And they come to us. So that's been helpful.
That's really cool. By the way, you do have a beautiful website. As somebody who appreciates design, at least on desktop, I think it's, I love the mega menu I'm talking specifically about your consumer website. Mega menu on the left. Yeah, it's super, super, super well done. So, you guys also do like,
thanks, man.
Yeah, you're also doing like other stuff, which is kind of cool that, like spray tanning, brows and lashes. Were those bolt-ons or was that part of the model initially?
No, and to be honest, Kevin, like I want to get down to like just like this is one of those things where like estheticians love doing services.
Okay.
So waxing's monotonous. They want to do facials. They love doing lashes and all these other things. So like in the beginning, I tolerated a lot of this.
Yeah.
But now as we're beginning to be more of a corporate structure, I've slowly like trimmed the fat to we're doing waxing and 30-minute or less services. Because if you look at the revenue per hour, you can do a Brazilian in 15 to 20 minutes and you're going to make $60. Okay. That's $180 per hour. You want to do brows, it's going to take you 15 minutes. If you F them up, they're going to write a review about you. Like they're not going to write a review about the Brazilian as much as best, but they're going to tell you the brow looks like, you know, the unibrow of the century, right? And that takes 15 minutes and costs $20. So you could do $80 an hour or $180 an hour. I'll take Brazilians all day long.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. I mean, yeah, when you start messing with people's faces, like my wife had one of those permanent makeup eye tattoos done or whatever. I'm like, you legit let somebody put ink on your face? And she's like, yeah, absolutely. And I thought, I'm like, what if that person messed up? What if they were hungover? Yeah. So yeah. And then what you guys doing isn't even permanent. I mean, it's just removal. So What do you mentioned competition. I don't know a lot about your space. They're entrenched players
Mhm.
that you're butting up against, or is it a fragmented industry? Like, what does your industry look like? Is it fragmented or not?
There's three other big
Is there?
players. There's European Wax Center, who is 878 stores, $1.3 billion valuation. They've been in that since 2008, largest player in the industry. Then you have, I guess, two copycats, Radiant Wax and Wax in the City. And I say that because there's really not that much difference between the three,
Okay.
right? So if you're going to play with European because they're the biggest in the
Huh.
group. Then you have sugaring concepts that are starting out. So there's one called Sugaring NYC. They've got 120 stores. They're the largest one, like right above
Hmm.
us. Um, and then we're the only hybrid model.
Okay.
So we do waxing and sugar.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, that's like one of the things that makes us a competitive advantage and different. We could talk about others, but
Like I say, it's a
in this space,
differentiation
look,
right there, right? I mean, if you're the only one that's doing both, and there's customers that want both, and they make sense for you to offer,
yeah.
hell yes, right?
Yeah, and this is a good point for franchisors. It's like, don't just be another box.
Mhm.
Like, what makes you really unique
Yeah.
from everybody else, right? So, like, how do you position yourself in the market? You think about soaps. You got like the mechanic soap, you know, the orange
Yeah.
one that feels
It's
really like
awesome.
hard and durable.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, and then you have silky smooth Dove, and they just like find this corner of the market that like that's them, right? And so when I look at, and I don't want to bash other salons because I'm sure they do great
Yep.
things, but when I look at the copycats of European wax, it's like you're a box that looks different that does exactly the same,
Right.
right? And so where's your differentiator? And that's a good thing for franchisors. It's like, hey, yeah, I love the idea of franchising, but unless I can really play at the top of the game, don't play in the game. Like find your niche and find what makes you different.
Yeah.
So for us, it was like, okay, you can start a European or some of these others for $250,000 to $500,000. We can get you set up for $65,000 in 3 months instead of 1 year. That was a differentiator that's really strong.
Yeah.
Now, the second thing is some people love sugaring, some people love waxing. We do both. So we're going to target both ends of the market, which will make you more profitable.
Love that. I love that. I want to talk about profitability for franchisors. So, we were talking about capital requirements to franchise. A lot of reason
Yeah.
that a lot of people franchise is because it's, lower capital, right? But when you bring on folks at a high rate, you have to have support structure in place. And, I think a lot of people come with, the decision point of, hey, do I go raise money and bring in investors, whether it's institutional capital or whether it's just, friends and family, or do I bootstrap? I've been down both paths in ventures.
Yeah.
I'm currently in a bootstrapping one. My business partner and I are hyperly impatient because of capital requirements, and there's times that it's like, hey, would it make sense if we had some more dry powder to go faster, right? What's your perspective? You bootstrap this whole thing, right? Or
Yeah, I bootstrapped
Good.
it.
Yeah.
I bootstrapped the whole thing. And we've stayed profitable since day one.
Yeah.
We have not lost money any time of the year. Barely. We use every penny we have to continue sustainability, but we're still profitable.
Yeah.
So let's look at this from two strategic perspectives, right? Let's look at it from the financial perspective and then from the staffing perspective, okay? So from the financial perspective, it's always better to wait to accept money because the pie is larger. And if you're looking at private equity, if they're going to come in the beginning, they're going to take a majority share of your business and then you are working for them, right?
Yep.
And so that poses some headache. But if you don't have at least 100 to 250,000 in capital to get you to that point, and that could be either in the bank or your business is making about that per year to sustain something of growth, then you're really not playing in the right game.
Yep.
Okay, so strategically, you need about that to get started for your first year. The second thing you're going to need, if you're going to do it yourself, is a strong network of people that trust you, that like, trust, and respect. Those are the three things: like, trust, and respect you, that you can pull from to start the franchising. The third thing you need is a really good story.
Yeah.
So when we started the franchising, we did something completely different. We actually funded the first 2 franchises.
Interesting.
We created a really good story.
Mhm.
And the first girl that started, she was 18 years old, going to college, and her first year she made $100,000 profit.
Dude, that's awesome.
And I'm like, what do you do with all that money? And she says, I spend it on Amazon. I get a lot of packages to my house on Amazon.
Yeah.
It is a cool story, right?
Yeah.
And so looking at those, and it wasn't done in the hot bikini markets, it was done in a ski town.
Right.
And so it just on shot, and it wasn't done in this massive Phoenix market. It was done in a town of 70,000 people. And so all of these like thoughts about how a business should be run were just broken down. And just looking at that, it's like, okay, I can do this. If she can do this at 18 years old with no experience in business in a small ski town, I can start a waxing salon and I can make really good money that could like replace my job. So you have a good story. You have about 100 to 250,000, and you have a strong network to pull from. Those are the three things. If you're going to bootstrap, that's the three things you need. That's like the financial side. I'd like to also talk about the strategic side. So the other thing you're going to need is you're going to need the best freaking staff you could possibly find, and do not skip on your staff. I mean, obviously that's like what everybody's going to say, but no, like really, like they need to be like C-suite level executive players. So you're not going to be able to find that in the beginning. You're going to have to use your own franchisees to get to that point, right? But if you're going to go from the beginning, the very first, Kevin, I'll ask you, what do you think is and there's no right answer. So like, what do you think is the very first position you should hire for?
Well, as a CEO, you should, if you read Buy Back My Time by Dan Martell, you should hire an admin and start buying back your time.
Okay.
Yep.
Fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. Strategically to move the business forward, you should definitely buy right. What do you think the C-suite level?
COO, problem solver, prolific problem solver.
I'm 100% agreeing with you. I thought at first it was be the CMO, but you need to be the CMO.
No, yeah.
You need to be the marketing officer that like they need to be able to believe in you in the business. That has to be you in the beginning. You need, and usually the franchisor has big dreams and visions, and needs like a marketing guy, or he's the marketing guy and needs like the minutia problem solving. I need to put processes in place kind of guy. And that's the COO. I 100% agree. That's it.
I mean, we've built a couple of franchise systems from the ground up that I've been part of, like either as an owner, employee at my last company. And so like my last organization, I was the chief marketing officer. I basically built it with the chief operating officer, and then we left that company and we're doing it again for other people. Like it's just this, you've got to have the marketing brain and you got to have sales, but you really need somebody who can figure out, hey, did somebody call the electrician to figure out like is that light switch connected? Like all that type of stuff that visionaries, creators of franchise systems, marketers, like this is not our DNA. We were not born with these types of skills.
No,
as a matter of fact,
we're too squirrely, right? Like, here's the nut. Let's go chase it.
It's a huge blind spot. And, I'll say, like my business partner in our smoothie shop franchise, he is an operations guy. He's an attorney by trade. He's the legal guy. He's accounting, like everything that I don't enjoy to the nth degree, he loves. And then everything he doesn't enjoy to the nth degree.
Good partnership.
Is I love it, right? And there's a great book for people.
It's a great partnership.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal one and very blessed. But there's a great book for anybody listening that it's called Rocket Fuel by Gino Wickman. It's all about the integrator and the visionary in any business. The common denominator between most businesses is there's a great visionary who can set the course and get people to rally behind it. But then there's a great integrator, somebody who can help make that stuff happen. And that's never the same person. Never.
Yeah, absolutely.
Never.
Yeah.
I
was thinking about that today. I was reflecting when I was coming here about like how do you grow something, and that's the key. You really need that guy.
You need it. You absolutely need it. And I can tell you, like in our agency, we just got this person. It's funny. She used to work for me at my last company, which was a franchisor, but she just joined a year ago. She came into our marketing company and she documented SOPs, micro tasks out the wazoo. It was the most painful period of my time running this business, but now that we're out of it and I see how the systems work, I'm like, oh my gosh. And we built these systems in our franchise, but for my other business, it was like, So that integrator person, the hammer, the person who can come in and get stuff done and build structure and processes, absolutely the first person that I think you bring on in your franchise system. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So what's next for you guys? I mean, you've got 65 locations open. I think you mentioned you're on pace for about 85 by the end of the year. Is that correct?
Yeah, 85 open by the end of the year.
Dude, that's awesome. And you got locations near us, which is great. What's next for you guys? Like, or do you know?
Yeah, I know. Like I want to, like, for me, I just want to win. I want to build a national brand. I want something that's life changing for a ton of entrepreneurs out there that can build something from a very small amount of capital on the side to a lifetime. That's where my joy is. And so, 878 locations is the target number. That's
Cool.
European Wax. We're coming after you. And we're going to win.
That was a very
The
specific
thing
number.
that we can do differently.
Very specific number.
Oh, yeah. The thing that we can do differently is they can target, they have a $400,000 investment. So they can target the big cities. But we can hit the big cities and the small cities because we can do things for $65,000. So it's just like, we can do both.
Yeah.
Right? We can do the big salons, but we can do these micro suites that also can generate 100K plus in profit a year in these smaller towns. So we can handle both of those. I really think we can target addressable market of about 1,500.
Really? Really? Man, that's awesome.
Yeah,
And
I think we do double that.
I think that's really cool that you do have the ability to have like a low investment, low overhead model. Like that's just so awesome that you could get this 18-year-old who's, banking 100 G profit and low overhead, right? So that's, man, just keep doing good work. I love it. I love it.
Thanks, man.
So what?
I appreciate that. And Kevin, like that's like the advertising thing, right? Like lower the barriers to entry. How do you lower the barriers to entry so that people can get into it, right? I mean, this is coming from our native DNA.
It is. I always tell people, I'm like, don't make it hard for me to give you money. Don't make it hard. Like if I want to give you money for whatever it is, business opportunity, bananas, I don't care what it is. Don't make it hard. Just make it easy for me to engage with you. Make it so that you adhere to your part of the, the promise, and like you're going to have a phenomenal business. So any parting.
Well, and then here's the other thing. If you're getting money, I just wanted to comment on that. If you're going to give money to somebody, they need to tell you why it's important for you. Like I always see people pitch things and they're like, oh, this is a great idea. And then you're like, how do I connect the dots? Like literally you just go in, have a 1-minute pitch, and then tell them what you're going to get out of this is X, Y, and Z. Yeah. Like keep your pitch simple and about the person you're pitching to, not you.
Yeah.
Right?
Ego's a nightmare. I mean, ego gets in our way all the time, and
for sure
checking it's hard. So if you could leave somebody who's listening, who's got a business and are thinking about franchising with one either insightful thought, or you want to save them a ton of heartache and a ton of brain damage by not making fill in the blank mistake that you made and you learned from, like what's your last part of wisdom that you might drizzle for our listeners today?
I'm going to give you something that you're going to think about every week.
Okay, let's go. I love it.
And I guarantee you're going to think about this every week.
I love this. You're going to be on my brain every week. Let's go. What do you got?
All right, here it is. So, and I think about this all the time, and this is why. When I started franchising, I didn't realize that this would have this effect. I think of this a lot like having guests come to your house. So like normally, your business is probably good enough, right? Like you've got dust in the corners, you've got like a table that's like semi-wiped, there's a few dishes in the sink, you know what I mean?
Right.
When you start to franchise and other people's money, their life savings, their whole time and investment is invested in you and trust in you. It's like when guests come to your house, you make everything spotless, right? You make everything spotless. You're cleaning the sinks, you're behind the counters, you're putting the chairs away, the dishes, like everything's perfect.
Right.
And this transformative process happens to your business when you franchise. So people that when they start, they go in and they're like, oh, there's not a process for X, Y, and Z. Let me make that process. And in the system of building that process, they make it better.
Yeah.
And every single aspect of your business is a little bit cleaner and a little bit better.
Oh.
And so, Kevin, what I'm going to leave you with is every time you go to clean your house this next week and in the future, you're going to be thinking of this episode of how your business gets better every time you clean up.
That's freaking awesome.
And that's exciting. That is exciting for a franchisor perspective who's like, hey, I got a business I love. Yeah. I'm going to make it 10x better by bringing other people into it.
I love that. I love your energy too, by the way. So, if people want to get plugged in, either connect with you or learn more about your business, like where's the best place for them to go to do so?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, if you're a franchisor and you need help, like I've been helped by so many people, feel free to reach out. Brigham at hellosugar.salon. If you're looking to franchise with Hello Sugar, we've got a very competitive offer. Hellosugar.salon. You can find the franchising page right on there. We'd be happy to talk more. Thanks for having me on the show, Kevin. I really appreciate it. I love your energy as well.
Oh, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this was an episode full of not only energy, but also just wisdom. And so my hope is that you got value out of it. And if you did, I'd love it if you left a review and or sent this episode to one friend who this episode might resonate with. Until next time, I'm your host, Kevin Oldham. Have a phenomenal week and be well.